understand my mindset. And that's what March 30th is all about, is just proving to the world that Keith Thurman was, is, and will be forever and ever one of the greatest fighters in the sport of boxing.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and enjoy the show. What's up, fight fans? Welcome to my channel. This is Johnny, and today we're going to take a closer look at the career of Keith Thurman, specifically his last 10 fights. What we're going to do is break down the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning one time. Guys, at the end of the month, everybody here knows that we have a big fight. We have Keith Thurman going up against Tim Tszyu. This fight's taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada. A few well-known facts about this fight from Keith's perspective is, come fight night, it would have been almost 800 days since he last fought Mario Barrios. Another fact is, he's never fought at 154. We haven't seen Keith in a while. We don't know what Keith Thurman to expect over his last few fights. We've seen him change up his style. We know that he has quick hands. We know that he has power. And we know that he is an eccentric character outside of the ring. Today we're going to go over those last 10 opponents, but we're going to dive deep into their records, their win-loss percentage, and get a better understanding of Keith's strength of schedule. Now, dating back to 2013, you have to go all the way 11 years ago when he fought Soto. We're going to start at that fight, and we're going to finish at the Mario Barrios fight, which I said was almost 800 days ago. And what we're going to do is add up all of his opponent's wins, add up all of his losses, and come up with a statistic that we're calling strength of schedule. What this is going to do is give us fans, people, the sport, a better understanding of Keith's road to get to March 30th, his path, his grind. And it's going to also give us a better understanding of what he had to go through. Those opponents that we're going to start with, like I said, are going to give us a better understanding of how deep the water is, the litmus test, basically the comparisons that his coaching staff and his trainers have paired him up with each fighter. Where is Keith at in his maturation? When you look at a fighter's resume from their very first fight until their last fight, it's literally going to be the hardest fight of their life later on in their career. A lot of times these records of their opponents in their first few fights are going to be basically matching up with the fighter's experience. 1-8 records, 10-10 records, and as the fighter wins and wins and wins, then you start seeing these really tough tests. A few facts about Keith: he is 30-1. He has 22 knockouts. They call him one time. He has one punch knockout power. He's an orthodox fighter from Clearwater, Florida. He stands at 5'9.5", and he has a 69-inch reach. So let's get into some of those stats that we were talking about. We're going to start at that Soto fight. He was 28-8 when he fought Keith. Guys, when we add these fight numbers up, we're taking the records on the night that they fought Keith. So Soto was 28-8. When he lost to Keith, he was 28-9. So we're taking the night of. Soto, 28-8. Diaz, 40-9. Bundu, 31-0. Guerrero, 32-2. Collazo, 36-6. Porter, 26-1. Danny Garcia, 33-0. Lopez, 36-7. Pacquiao, 61-7. Barrios, 26-1. We add all of those up, guys. That gives a resume of 349 wins and 41 losses, which is a ratio of win-loss at 89%. So Keith Thurman's strength of schedule over his last 10, 89%. He went 9-1. His only loss was that split decision loss to Manny Pacquiao. He beat two undefeated fighters. He took Danny Garcia's O, and he took Bundu's O, and he has 3 knockouts in those 10. When I look back at Keith's last 10, a fight I like to talk about and a fight that we're going to dissect today is that aforementioned Danny Garcia fight when Danny went in there at 33-0, and we're going to open that fight up a little bit here. The reason why I chose the Danny Garcia fight and not the Shawn Porter fight, which in my opinion, the Porter fight was a classic, is the fact that I feel the Danny Garcia fight better helps explain the enigma of Keith Thurman. He has multiple different fight styles, and he's known for getting into these fights to where he's either up early and he gives rounds away, or he's down and then he comes back and he normally squeezes out a split decision victory. He's done this multiple times. This Danny Garcia is a classic case of that. He did this against Sean Porter, but that was a unanimous decision. The Lopez fight, the Manny Pacquiao fight, if he doesn't get dropped, he, in my opinion, is winning that fight. He lost a close split decision. So he has a sort of sense of sometimes confusing his fans. And this Danny Garcia fight, in my opinion, is a classic case of that. A couple facts about this fight. In only the third title unification bout ever between undefeated welterweights in boxing history. That's why the significance. Keith going into that fight was 28-0. Danny was 33-0, and it was unifying the divisions WBA and WBC world titles. Those judges scored this fight 116-112 for Thurman, 115-113 for Garcia, and 115-113 for Thurman. Now, when you watch the fight over and over, it'd be tough to give the fight to Garcia, even though one judge actually did. Thurman got out early on the scorecards, but then he let the final rounds get away from him, moving on his back foot, dancing around, and generally looking like he thought he had the fight wrapped up. And this is one of those things about Keith. If he does this on the 30th against Tim, that might lead to his downfall. You don't want to play in there with a killer like Tim Tszyu, who's a finisher. And I'm referencing this fight for a reason. Sometimes you don't want to call it a mental lapse these fighters have. Maybe it's their understanding of the fight game, because in this case, Keith was accurate with him being up, but it was closer than he thought. And like I said when I started the breakdown of the Garcia fight, the action by no means comprised the classic war. It was still a high-stakes affair with some fine displays of boxing prowess, and this is the side of Keith that he definitely possesses. When Keith is at his best, he's really tough to beat. In this fight, he wasted no time starting, like we said, launching wild shots from awkward angles, making it confusing for Garcia. If Thurman wants to do this against Tim, you have to think that he has to start out quick, but not give rounds away. A lot of the boxing pundits are predicting the Tszyu fight to go later in the rounds, and we always say boxing is a young man's sport, and the active fighter usually wins. Tim is both, but only time will tell on the 30th. Who do you guys like going to that fight? One time or Tszyu? Let me know in the comment section below.
Acclaimed and undefeated WBA welterweight champion of the